Welcome back to the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. A whole lot to talk about today in the transfer portal for the Florida Gators football program. I am your host, Neil Schulman. Follow me at All Kinds Weather on Twitter and Instagram. Riding solo tonight before we go any further and get into the wealth of Gators portal activity to talk about. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcast. All that good stuff really helps us bring you guys more great content. Also going to take a second to shout out our sponsors. The All Kinds of Weather forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants. They also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it is savings for your child's college, investment advice, just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That is 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. To learn more, contact them at 866-998-5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. Also have to shout out our official merch partner, Heads and Tails, your one-stop shop for everything Florida Gators related. And if you are an FSU Seminole, if you are a South Florida Bull, or if you're a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, they also do provide gear for those teams as well. So get your gear from them at IAKLW30. That's the code you want to use to get 30% off of your order, either in store or online. They do ship anywhere. They are based in Tampa, but they can provide your gear to anywhere in the country. And that code is good throughout the rest of 2024. So the holidays coming up, Hanukkah's coming up, Christmas is coming up. Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate that. Happy Hanukkah to fellow members of the tribe out there. Be sure to get your holiday shopping in while you still can. Go to theheadsandtails.com and get yourself some gear for the holidays. All right, a bunch to talk about. And like I said, we're going to blitz right through them all real quick. Jack Pyburn to LSU. That is a news development that I don't think Gator fans were very happy about, but at this point, it is what it is. We've all undoubtedly at this point seen the demands that he reportedly put out. Now, he has refuted those reports. I have to mention that he did put out an Instagram story saying that those demands that he was reported to have made were laughable. As he put it was just a bunch of crying, laughing emojis as he was about to board a private airplane. So that did happen. Also, Zach Alberverdi is, generally speaking, pretty good about those kinds of things. I would not think he would be the one to just make something up. If he says something like that, I tend to believe it's accurate. So again, there is more than is always reported about these kinds of things. There is, the player side, there's the team side, the school side, and then there's the truth in the middle, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. Like whatever you want to associate this departure to, whatever you want to attribute it to, whether it's player greed or school greed that the school didn't pay him enough. Oh, I hate the game that we now play. The kids are merchants. There's no love for the logo anymore. Jack Pyburn was the glue guy, and now even he's part of this merchantry. You know what? It doesn't matter. Jack Pyburn's not going to be a Florida Gator. That's the bottom line. Instead, he is going to be a Louisiana State Tiger, a development that dropped on Monday morning with a very strange edit from Hayes Fawcett that included the Florida F logo still very much visible on the thigh pad. Maybe pay a little bit more attention to detail there, Hayes. But yeah, he won't be a Gator anymore. It sucks that he's going to a rival, but it is what it is. And at this point, if you ain't a Gator, you must be, as we all know what Lawrence Wright said. If you're offended by that phrase, then I apologize, but you know what? We all know what he's talking about. The thesis behind it still very much hold. If you're not a Gator, you're an opponent. You're an op, as they say, an OPP. So Gator's going to be dealing with a former player again of theirs next year in Game 3 at LSU. We talked about that schedule breakdown on a couple shows ago, and how the Gators get LSU uncharacteristically early this year. But it is what it is, and we'll just have to live with it. Another piece of news with the transfer portal we got to talk about, Damieon George transferring out, or no, he's not actually, because he changed his mind very quickly after. And one of the quicker about faces I can really remember ever in the short transfer portal era coming back, which is huge. The Florida Gators getting him back after a year, which I thought he was very much improved for Florida. We can talk about on-field production from a guy like Pyburn being there in spurts, but not really being at a position where you think, well, he's worth 540K. Damieon George clearly improved from 2 years ago, or I guess still last year, 2023 to 2024. A lot of people saying that his position shift to where he's more comfortable has a lot to do with that. I think there is some truth to that. I also think he just got smarter and just a year older. And I think the two of those things combining, working together, helped make him a much better football player. And he is someone where I'm going to differentiate between him and Pyburn. Where, as with Pyburn, I like the kid. I really wished he'd come back, but you know what? Fine. He wants to go. Whatever. We'll survive without him. We've got Tyreek Sapp, we've got George Gums, we've got guys at that OLB or edge position who can come in and produce. That's not the case with Damieon George. That was going to be a loss. Now, Florida was going to have a replacement there. It wasn't like Florida was out of answers if Damieon George left. It wasn't like they'll just throw their hands up and go, well, we're screwed. We have no backup plan there. No, there was Bryce Lovett who was going to step in there, and you thought Florida was going to be okay there. But with so many injuries always happening on the offensive line because of the punishment they take, you got to have some kind of depth there. And if nothing else, at the very least, this was going to hurt in terms of depth. I was prepared to move on from Damieon George. I was going to say, all right, well, I really wish that didn't happen, but okay, we'll use Lovett and we'll have to train someone else there, I guess. I don't know who wants to slide over to that guard spot, but we'll just survive. No, now we don't have to think that way anymore because Damieon George is indeed coming back to the Florida Gators. Bryce Lovett will indeed be able to continue learning, or he'll maybe slide into the other guard spot if he so earns that. But the Gators now have more numbers there. They have more bodies, more healthy bodies, more proven bodies on the offensive line, especially on the interior. So that's a big deal for the Gators as well. But it's not the biggest deal we got on the offensive line front in this crazy portal cycle already, because we learned in the span of about 12 hours that Florida would be returning. Those OG listeners of the All Kinds of Weather Forecast remember this when I was doing this show with Dustin in the height of COVID. We talked about brickyard talents. What is a brickyard talent? Well, we haven't talked about them in a couple of years now, but a brickyard talent is exactly what it sounds like. It's someone who earns a brick at the University of Florida. We also attribute brickyard talent to those who win the Heisman Trophy, those who win the Paul Hornung Trophy, which is the most versatile player in the country. That's one of those national awards that goes to the most versatile player in the country, or someone who wins any other national award, like the Biletnikoff or the Doak Walker Award. Let's say they were left off the first team All-American ballots, but the Doak Walker Award winner, or the Doak Walker people said, this is the best running back in the country. Or the Biletnikoff Award people said, you know what, the All-American voters got this wrong. This guy deserves the Biletnikoff trophy. We're going to give it to him. Someone in the country with authority and power and respect and prestige believes that you are the best in the country at what you do. We call you a brickyard talent at the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. That included Kyle Trask, because he was a Heisman Trophy finalist. A Heisman Trophy finalist also counts for that distinction. Point is, you don't want to waste brickyard talents. They are special that you just cannot replace. So, long story short, the Gators are returning one in Jake Slaughter. As we learned on Monday morning, Jake Slaughter was named a first-team All-American by the Associated Press. A big deal for him. He is going to join a wealth of offensive linemen to get that award for the Florida Gators. Most recently, Osiris Torrance, who he actually played with a couple years ago at Florida in 2022. And then just a few hours later, we got the news that he is coming back. And that is a massive, massive deal for the Florida Gators. If you remember, way, way back to his recruitment process, Jake Slaughter actually flipped from FSU to Florida. And this was even before all kinds of weather forecast had taken off. So unfortunately, I have no way of verifying that I actually said this. But I did say this on a Twitter Spaces that that is going to be a flip that Dan Mullen will make Mike Norvell and FSU, or maybe it was Willie Taggart at the time. But I said Dan Mullen will make FSU rue that day for years to come. Well, Dan Mullen clearly had some of his own ruining to do. It didn't go well for him at Florida after that point, but damn it, if he and John Hevesy did not knock it out of the ballpark with that one, he is one of the best offensive linemen Florida has had, I believe, since the championship teams of 2006 and 2008. Now there have been great ones. There have been DJ Humphreys, there have been David Sharp, there have been Osiris Torrance, obviously, and he shares the offensive line with a very good one in Austin Barber. But this is one of those guys in Jake Slaughter that immediately changes your fortunes the next season. He came into this season with some hype as, probably going to be pretty good, hold down the fort a little bit at the center position. With what we saw on tape from him in 2024, this is the guy that coming back now makes us think, okay, we can take that next step. His return is probably worth another win and a half, 2 wins in those Vegas projection totals that we now keep laughing about. That was only 4.5. Why was it so low? Are you crazy? Florida's gonna beat that, and then they did. But the point is, this is one of those things that ups that by a good margin. And Florida fans can just feel that much better about themselves knowing that they have their rock coming back to anchor the offensive line. Still no decision from Austin Barber yet. I'm honestly really surprised that Slaughter did come back, but that's a big win for Billy Napier. And, you got to give credit to the collective. That's Florida victorious now. You got to shout them out. I've been critical of both Napier and Strickland and the UAA as a whole and the collective and the donors and all of those pieces that go into the Gators NIL and recruiting efforts. But you know what? If I'm loud for those failures, if I'm going to criticize them, fair's fair. And I believe in intellectual honesty, and I believe in being just as loud when I see data points that maybe disprove what I'd previously thought. So I'm going to give it to them. That's a great job. That is a fantastic job by the Florida Gators all around. That's Napier. That's the NIL. And I hate Strickland, but you know what? He's the head of the snake here, so he does get some of that credit as well. So great job all around by the Gators to get Slaughter back. Amarius Williams is the next piece of recruiting / portal news we'll talk about. And if you remember that name, it's for good reason, because he was once committed to the Florida Gators in that class that around Halloween of October of 23 quickly imploded. But before that implosion point was number 5 in the country. Amarius Williams leaving the class was one of their final pieces of undoing there. But he is now back on the market. He signed with the Auburn Tigers, of course. That first year on the Plains clearly didn't go as he expected. And now he is putting himself back out there looking for a new home. You got to think the Gators are in the game for him. You got to think that the Gators have a shot. And this is another one of those talking points where you go, okay, Billy, Florida victorious, you get him, you land this kid, and now we can change the conversation. Now we can start being more positive about the outlook here. Now we can start thinking about this as a more serious program. Because let's face it, the Gators have been slow in the transfer portal. And is that a good thing? Were the Gators playing chess and not checkers, as the Napier apologists like to say? I don't know. Maybe. Could be. But the Gators also did okay in the portal last year. They definitely hit on some. You got a George Gums. That was great. You got Pup Howard. That was fantastic. So, Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, you had pieces for sure, but not enough of those elite game changer pieces where the Gators were a serious national championship contender, which of course is the goal. And Amarius Williams won't do that all by himself, but that's one of them. That is certainly going to count as one of those elite gets by the Florida Gators, that if you put him at edge, you put him at outside linebacker, he'll need some training, but he's athletic enough to to play a variety of positions for Florida. You coach him up and you get production out of him like you got out of a George Gums last year. Jack who? The trader, the guy that left us for a rival, like the Benedict Pyburn kid. Yeah, sure. That's the conversation we're going to start having as Gator fans. That's a conversation shifter. That's the point. There are some portal guys you take that are, good takes, sure, depth, or, you can't have enough bodies at that position, or, oh, yeah, Elijah Badger, yeah, that's a good take. He looked good at Arizona State. Turned out that he exceeded those expectations. Point is, that was a take that you thought, okay, that's a good take. We like those. And then there are conversation changers. I think Amarius Williams can come in and be one of those conversation changers, like Elijah Badger turned out to be, like a George Gums turned out to be. Because again, he was committed to Florida for a while, obviously very familiar with the Gator program, and clearly had a good relationship with Napier for long enough of a time that he stayed committed for that long. So there's definitely some hope there. Now, it's not all or nothing with him. There are more targets out there in the portal, and we'll talk about those in more detail as more time elapses throughout this admittedly very quick portal cycle. But those are the ones that stick out right now. The Jack Pyburn news to LSU, Damieon George pulling a very quick 360, Jake Slaughter earning that brick and then coming back. First team All-American, always something to be applauded. And then you learn that same day you return him. And then Amarius Williams leaving Auburn and potentially, maybe coming back around to Florida. So that's it for the football portal news. A couple other things we got to touch on. Basketball, obviously doing very, very well. Gators put a beat down on Arizona State on Sunday to go to 10-0 on the season. Gators are now ranked in the top 10 in every major poll. I'm actually going to the North Carolina game in Charlotte. I only live about 2.5 hours from Charlotte. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, so that's going to be an easy trip for me. Hopefully there's more Gator blue than there is Tar Heel blue. But in any case, I'll be in enemy territory cheering on the Gators as they try to get a big win because North Carolina, yes, they're 6-4. They do have some eyesore losses. Losing to Michigan State isn't fantastic. Getting blown out by Auburn isn't really great either. Auburn is a very good team, but the way they lost kind of makes you lose confidence in their abilities. But North Carolina has a lot of talent. A kid in Elliot Cadeau, who I actually know from New Jersey, believe it or not. His dad and my dad play tennis together, so that's a fun story. But again, Florida is going to be tested in this game like I don't think they have been. I don't think FSU or Virginia or Wake Forest really stretch the floor vertically the way North Carolina can. I think Florida's bigs are better than North Carolina's bigs, but I also think North Carolina's bigs can match up with Florida's better than anyone's really have so far this year. I hope I don't have to eat that statement about Florida's bigs being better, but we'll see. That's why they play the games, and that's why Florida tests themselves with these kinds of non-conference matchups. I'm going to miss the Jumpman Classic. It was easy for me to get to every year. It's very, fairly quick drive. And non-selfishly, the Gators were tested with some good opponents. I mean, Oklahoma in the first year of it was a game Florida probably should have won, didn't, but it was a good test. Michigan last year, Michigan turned out to be terrible, but that was another good non-conference test for the Gators. And then this year, the sexiest opponent of all, North Carolina. So you like to see the Gators play in those kinds of big stage, bright light games. And here comes another one under the lights in Charlotte. So there's that. Very quickly, we'll touch on some softball news. Let's keep you guys informed on all the big sports. It sucks to talk about this one, but Ariel Kowalewski, the phenomenal third baseman for Florida, seems to be leaving the program. Very unfortunate. Not really totally sure why. Maybe she wanted more playing time and doesn't know that she's going to get it this year. Maybe she just wants to be closer to her boyfriend and her family back in Texas, so she may go to Texas A&M or Texas, but that sucked. She was great for Florida as a freshman last year. Wish her all the best as long as she doesn't go to a Florida rival and become a Jack Pyburn. So that is all we've got for today's show. If you liked our content, please be sure to like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. We really, really appreciate that. And until next time, y'all, this might be it until the holidays. So Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate that. And have a happy and safe holiday season. Go Gators. Let's beat the Tar Heels. Let's beat the Tulane Green Wave. and let's keep this momentum going in the transfer portal.